You'll need these.
I built an alien costume, and at the time, I felt it was done enough, Velociraptor air quotes, mostly because you don't need to see the whole alien in order to make an effective short film. And if you're actually trying to move around at like a convention or Halloween party, it's not a very practical costume. But I'm in quarantine, and I'm staring at this 30% of an alien going, you know, I can add some ribs to that. So today I'm making alien ribs. The worst ribs. I just keep thinking barbecue, and no. Be the worst. I'm essentially trying to go from a close-up to a cowboy shot. Don't know why they call it that. Cowboy shot is American-style filmmaking that includes the thighs above the knees, just above the head, in order to include both the cowboy hat and gun holster. Oh, okay, well, more you know.
Science facts with William Jakespeare. Well, how about that?
A good filmmaker can turn less into more. However, the more work that the costume maker can do beforehand, the more options the cinematographer/director will have when filming. Not the only shots we can get because we're trying to film around a terrible monster costume. Jaws! That was actually a real cough. Well, the first part. Essentially, to make a monster movie, all you really need is the teeth, but I'm striving to make a full costume. I first built it out to be the head and shoulders. Today's goal is to make a torso. I'm starting off by building a sternum and ribs out of foam floor mats and foam dowels, connecting them with contact cement, which is kind of a long, frustrating process when you're making something organic, so perfect time for a patron scroll. These videos are only possible because of my patrons. Previously, on Lost. The most requested build was the Fallen Order saber, which is cool, but it's also not the most complicated build ever. There was a little bit extra patron money and a lot extra foam dowels left over once I was finished with that build, so I figured I'd put it to use to make a more complete alien. Thanks, patrons! Oh, I also wanted to thank Skylar Osler of Cosplay Apprentice, who donated a big old bucket of foam clay. It's
Foam
clay. And this stuff is absolutely essential for making anything organic. I don't know where this dialogue is going to end up in the editing process, so that'll become apparent in a moment. Oh, God, look at that quarantine hair. Or rather, don't. This is kind of turning into a vest that opens up in the back. Because these parts are very thin and somewhat fragile, I had to build up a support structure on either side of the opening. While the cement is drying, I'm going to work on the additional back spouts. The aliens are supposed to have these 4 back spouts, but I sort of faked it in the last video because there wasn't really enough money to do the whole thing. So, only attempting to get a head and shoulder shot, I only did 2 at the time. For those 2, I traced a leg template, generously donated from a cosplayer friend, onto craft foam. Oh, I do want to mention right here, Cosplay Apprentice also sent me a ton of foam in roll form. That's an amazing product. It's the correct width, but it's like actual armor. It's solid, and these pieces need to be flexible. So I'm actually using an inferior foam product just so that somebody doesn't get hurt if I bump into them wearing this thing. I know this may come as a shock, but I don't have the best field of vision in this costume. I cut the panels out, heat formed them, glued them together, reheated them just to even out the lumpy parts, carefully determined where the opening of the alien detail would go, cut out the oval, made this Venetian blind pattern out of craft foam, and inserted those into each tube, gluing it all together with contact cement. I then filled in the seams with DAP Alex Dry. That'll take a while to dry before I can attach it, so in the meantime, I worked on the organic details using the foam clay. This really helps to put the bio in biomechanoid. I wish I'd known about this stuff years ago, well, even when I'd started making the teeth of the costume, because it's infinitely easier to sculpt an organic curve out of clay, an organic curve out of foam clay, than to sand it out of a chunk of foam. Honestly, it took days to carve and attach those teeth the old-fashioned way. It was just so finicky trying to make something small like that. That may have even been why Skylar donated the foam clay, because I was posting progress pictures and I bet he's watching that going, ah, God, there's an easier way to do that. So yeah, thanks for that. Saved me a ton of aggression and hot glue burns. Oh, another benefit is this actually strengthens the attachment points because there's just a little bit less, it holds it in place. There's a little bit less wear and tear on the glue seam as it moves. All right, that's gonna take a couple of days to dry, so I attached the spouts, laid them up, and then while those were drying, I painted gloss black on the sternum using acrylic house paint. This will take at least 2 coats, probably more because EVA foam is like a sponge. It's gonna absorb the first few layers of paint, and I really want that glossy texture. That'll give the creature a wet look without me having to cover it in actual slime. Oh God, can you imagine storage? Hashtag slime bucket challenge. It's very difficult to paint a large costume with this much variation in shape, hence the sawhorse is in scrap wood. When it had dried, I did a quick test fitting and realized that it was going to need a buckle to hold the sides together. I attached the buckle to the back with reinforcements of foam and contact cement. I combined it with a black morph suit and my creature stilts.
This is how they did the werewolves in Underworld. Is this what stilettos feel like? I cannot find my morph suit, so an alternative is Under Armour and leather pants. Okay, you got it, you got it. 1, 2, 3, don't hurt. Yoink.
See, unlike before where I could only do head and shoulders, now I can get a full 360-degree shots from the waist up. But I can also sort of fake a front-facing full body shot using my monster stilts and After Effects. Come Halloween, I'm just gonna wander around the neighborhood, frightening as many people as I possibly can. I'm gonna terrify so many children. Future therapists are gonna make so much money off of me. Oh man, I hope no one's fight or flight response is to actual fight though. And that's how he died. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, you can like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified. That's super important. So, somebody just commented that he'd missed 5 years of uploads because he hadn't hit the bell icon. So, you know, trying to help us both out here. And once again, I'd like to thank my patrons who make these videos possible. Ideally, I'd like to be able to do these large builds all at once instead of in parts over the course of a year. So if you're able to spare a buck or two, then you can join the patrons so that these builds can be realized in their fullest. I'm trying to say that I want to build the tail. That's all I just want to build the tail. Happy crafting. See you later.
I just sweated half my body weight out through my head. Of course, the leather pants probably don't help.